When they say they want to make America great again, it's because they want to go back to a whiter America, a less browner America. That is Stephen Miller's vision. Stephen Miller went to ICE and said, you better round up 3,000 people a day. He's given them an arbitrary number. And ICE people are saying, we can't do this. It's not possible. He said, just go to 7-Eleven, go to Home Depot, and just round people up. They're doing racial profiling, Piers. They're just grabbing brown people, Latino folks off the streets who are American citizens.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exploring a particularly heated moment from a recent discussion between Mehdi Hasan and Piers Morgan. This exchange transcends the typical immigration statistics, delving into topics like civil rights, unchecked governmental authority, and some pretty unsettling truths that people often choose to overlook. I've included a link to the entire debate in the description in case you want to watch it all. Before we get started, I've noticed comments pouring in from around the globe, which has truly opened my eyes. Now, I'm wondering, where are you tuning in from? Are these issues popping up where you live, or do you have a completely different perspective? Share your country or city in the comments. I'm eager to see how this debate resonates with your part of the world. If you appreciate in-depth discussions with no spin or hedging, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive right in.
I interviewed Joy Reid the other day, right, who was obviously at MSNBC for a long time, and she started ranting away about Trump and the deportation stuff that's going on. I just said to her, okay, how many people did Obama deport?
Okay.
No, you know it's one of my favorite questions. But what was striking was not just that she had no idea, which she admitted. She never bothered to find out, even though people like me had been telling everyone the number for a long time, to expose, actually, I think, a liberal double standard on this. But secondly, she said, I don't care. She didn't care how many people Obama had deported, even though he's by far, pro rata, the biggest deporter of people in American presidential history. So, my question for you about this would be, okay, I don't happen to think Trump has been that authoritarian. I think he pushes the courts as hard as he can.
Why?
But then he reigns back.
He's defied court
the people that have been deported, where there was a big blow up and contention about it, they've come back and they're facing due process. That's not what an authoritarian does. He's cleaned up.
That's just not true, Piers.
Well, on the southern border, for example, I presume you would praise Trump for stemming the number of people coming illegally there, or would you not?
No, I don't praise somebody who tortures people in detention centres, and I don't think you should either. And you said a lot of things that weren't true. With regard to Joy Reid, who's a good friend of mine, I believe that what she meant, I'll tell you in a second. Let me just deal with Joy Reid. I believe Joy was talking about not caring because it's not relevant. I mean, Joy can speak for herself, but that's my interpretation of what she said. It's not relevant. Obama, first of all, and you tried this gotcha on me, I've written pieces in The Guardian attacking Obama's deportation record. It was a very bad record. And I've been critical of Joe Biden's immigration record. I was on MSNBC attacking Joe Biden's immigration record for being too Republican-esque. But that is not relevant to right now, because when we're talking about deportations, we're not just talking about numbers at the southern border. We're talking about what ICE is doing in what's called the interior of America, in LA, on the streets of New York, grabbing people off the streets, masked agents with no badges, no IDs, unmarked cars, grabbing American citizens, doing racial profiling of Latino gardeners or customers at Home Depot, putting them in detention, disappearing them like fascist countries do. When American citizens, veterans, a disabled veteran in LA, Piers, just disappeared off the street for 3 days. His family don't know where he's in. That is Pinochet Chile style.
But do you agree?
Right? I'm not saying it's the same, but I'm saying that is reminiscent. Okay. No, hold on, Piers. You had a long thing about, I just need to deal with your points, then you come back in. Okay. He has defied court orders. The Washington Post just did a study the other day of 160 lawsuits brought against him. They've defied 1 in 3 of those lawsuits. He hasn't given due process to people in El Salvador. People were tortured, Piers, in El Salvador. Kilmar Abrego Garcia talks about being sat on his knees all night long, being beaten, being deprived of food.
Well, actually, a lot of people have said that's nonsense.
You opposed George Bush. But it's not nonsense. What are you talking about? Congress members have gone to Alligator Alcatraz in Florida and talked about 35 people to a room, drinking water out of the toilets that they have to do a number 2 in. You opposed the Iraq war. I assume you opposed Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib at the time. I don't quite remember. But this is torture. This is what Trump, the guy you say is not authoritarian, is doing. And he's doing it to American citizens.
Yeah,
he's doing it to American. Well, he's not giving due process to American citizens. He's chucked out American children out of this country
let me get
without
a question
due process just earlier this year.
A particularly jaw-dropping moment occurred when Mehdi Hasan asserted that masked operatives without identification, using vehicles lacking official markings, were detaining American citizens in a manner reminiscent of authoritarian regimes. When faced with such alarming claims, my immediate reaction is to ask, hold on, Is there evidence to support this? The reality is that extensive reports from credible sources like the Washington Post and Associated Press confirm that unmarked federal agents were active in Portland during the 2020 protests. Some DHS officials even admitted the execution of these operations was clumsy. This isn't some outlandish conspiracy theory, it's a documented, heavily reported governmental action. Yet, what grabbed my attention was Piers Morgan's reaction. Instead of directly addressing the claim, he diverted to defend Trump by stating that while he challenges the judiciary, he knows when to reel it back. To me, that's akin to excusing a habitual rule breaker just because they stop when caught. It's not particularly convincing, is it? It feels like acknowledging that someone is constantly testing the limits of the system. Then Mehdi highlighted that these actions affect American citizens, with reports indicating detentions of lawful residents and even veterans, raising red flags. Regardless of political beliefs, this type of behavior should trouble us all because what happens if we allow these tactics to become the norm? The possibility exists for their expansion by future administrations. Recently, something transpired that perfectly echoes Mehdi's observation, which I'm about to show you. Here's an NBC7 News report, and it really underscores the situation we're facing. Alright, where do I even begin with this shocker? We just saw Barbara Stone, a 71-year-old American citizen, getting cuffed and held up for 8 hours. The shocking part? All she was doing was exercising her First Amendment right by observing court proceedings. Simply put, that's all she was up to. Here's what really troubles me. According to the report, she had to repeatedly request an attorney. Just ponder that for a moment. A U.S. citizen kept for 8 hours, constantly pleading for basic constitutional protections. This isn't some theoretical argument anymore. This is a grandmother, 71 years old, with sore wrists from handcuffs, claiming she's mentally and psychologically scarred. And why? Just for watching what happens in a courthouse. Think about it like this. Imagine your neighbor continuously pressing against your fence, trying to see when it might give in. You might argue, well, he stops when I tell him off, so he isn't actually trying to break it. But isn't the real question why he keeps testing it in the first place? That whole back and forth between Mehdi and Piers wasn't mere political drama. It was drawing attention to a core issue of defining boundaries and what we deem acceptable government actions. Honestly, after seeing that NBC report, it seems pretty clear which path we're on.
I just don't think that you can ignore, as Joy Reid wanted to, what Obama did for 8 years as a Democrat president and as a black, and as the first black president.
Piers, come on, Piers. I get that you need to do this both sides shtick for your show, but Obama is not relevant.
Shtick.
Obama did not defy the Supreme Court.
I actually do look at both sides.
Well, okay, point to me. Well, Piers, point to me then. I'll give you as long. I've got to go soon, but I'll give you as long as you want before I go. When did Obama defy the Supreme Court on immigration? He didn't. When did he defy lower court judges? He didn't. Joe Biden didn't either. So we're talking about the courts here, right? Judges, Trump-appointed judges, Piers. A Trump-appointed judge said earlier this year that an American child was expelled, deported from this country, even though you can't legally deport an American citizen, but was kidnapped and taken out of this country without meaningful process. That is the words of a Trump-appointed judge. You cannot find an equivalent for Barack Obama, and I carry no water for Obama on immigration. One thing I've got to say on undocumented folks, some of these people, not just here a few years, they picked up an Iranian woman, a grandmother in her front yard gardening, who'd been here since 1979. She came as a child. Her family claimed asylum after the Iranian Revolution. They picked up and detained her. This is insane. And by the way, the polls show, Piers, that Americans do want deportations, but when they're asked more detailed questions, do you support people who've been here for many years? Do you support people who've committed no crimes? Do you support deporting people who want a pathway to citizenship? They don't support deporting those people. They support, like you and I do, deporting violent criminals, which Biden was doing, Trump did, Obama did. Everyone agrees on that. What he's doing right now, and what Stephen Miller is doing, Piers, just so your viewers know, Stephen Miller went to ICE and said, you better round up 3,000 people a day. He's given them an arbitrary number. And ICE people are saying, we can't do this. It's not possible. He said, just go to 7-Eleven, go to Home Depot, and just round people up. They're doing racial profiling, Piers. They're just grabbing brown people, Latino folks off the streets who are American citizens. And they're saying very clearly why they want to do this. Right? They want to make, when they say they want to make America great again, it's because they want to go back to a whiter America, a less browner America. That is Stephen Miller's vision. That is, you get Stephen Miller on Piers and ask him.
They've not said that. They've not said that. Have they?
Stephen Miller is a white nationalist. Stephen Miller is a white nationalist who spent a career enabling and promoting white nationalism. It's all on the record.
But there is no evidence Donald Trump wants to keep people in because of their skin colour or throw them out because of their skin colour.
Actually, there's a lot of reporting from the first term where he says, why can't we have more people from Sweden, less people from shithole countries? So I'm pretty sure I know what he was talking about when he was talking about Swedish folks.
Well, he's probably talking about the 7 countries which Obama banned people from coming in from because of their terror record. Was he?
He didn't ban entire peoples from coming in. He
Actually,
put them on
he did.
a terror
And that was
list,
the
which I
farce
don't
of
agree with.
That was
but
the
he didn't
farce
ban
when Trump
He
did
didn't-
it.
No,
The left all went nuts, and it turned out
No,
Obama
he
had done
didn't ban
exactly the same thing
he didn't ban
with the same
everyone from
countries.
coming in. By the way, Donald Trump in December 2015 said we need to ban every Muslim coming into the United States. Do you support that Islamophobic, racist position?
He said, if I remember accurately what he said, it was after an appalling terror attack where I think over 50 people got murdered. And he said, we're going to have a short-term suspension on people coming in from the same countries that Obama had done this to.
No, he didn't.
Until
he said
we
every Muslim. No,
until
he
we
said
figure
all
out
Muslims
what's
will
going
be banned.
on.
Not true, Piers. People can Google it right now. You're wrong and I'm right, as ever. He said all Muslims will be banned from coming into the United States. He didn't say anything about 7 countries. That's what it became when he came into office. But he said he wanted to ban all Muslims from coming in. Surely you disagree with that.
All right, let's cut to the chase. When Piers Morgan dismisses everything Mehdi presented by insisting there's no proof that Trump is motivated by race or casually noting, well, Obama banned certain groups too, that's where, in my opinion, he completely misses the point. Mehdi counters with Trump's own words from 2018, why don't we have more people from Sweden and fewer from shithole countries, regardless of your political stance? A statement like that isn't exactly subtle. It's not policy, it's outright bias. This refers to the January 2018 incident in the Oval Office, where Trump allegedly described Haiti, El Salvador, and some African nations as shithole countries, while advocating for more immigrants from Norway or Sweden, a story covered by the Washington Post and others. And then Piers' argument that Trump didn't mean all Muslims doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Trump's initial declaration on December 7, 2015, was explicitly called Donald J. Trump's Statement on Preventing Muslim Immigration, advocating for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can understand what is happening.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
In my view, this highlights the stark contrast between the two. Mehdi concentrates on real human issues, constitutional freedoms, and the consequences of unchecked power, whereas Piers seems to be on the defensive, nitpicking, twisting words, and trying to diminish the significance of what's documented. Now, let me throw a question your way. How much authority are you comfortable handing to the government when you trust the person in power, bearing in mind that this same authority will remain when someone you disagree with steps in? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where do you draw your boundaries? That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed my commentary, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.